The college football experience week 4 bracketology episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up, but when you do sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, this is Pac-Man Jones. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience week 4 bracketology episode. Oh boy, I must first start off youtube.com/the college experience. Hop on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. I apologize. We were supposed to do this show yesterday, but I had a family issue come up and, I couldn't do it anytime. I thought I might be able to do it later in the night. Well, no, because I'm like a vampire right now. I haven't slept. I've slept like I think 45 minutes in the past like 40 hours. So, great to talk about the week 4 bracketology because I wasn't available yesterday. It jumps a day into Thursday, which gets one game, and that reroutes my fucking bracket. All right, youtube.com/the college experience. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, tailless pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're gonna pay for it. Good night.
Oh boy! Wow, what a Thursday result. I think we know where we're gonna just start off with just a fucking royal ass whooping at a place that they don't really lose much in Boone. Good Lord. I am joined by my co-host. You have heard him killing it on the college basketball experience. Go listen to the interview and what he did with Will Wade yesterday. He's also been killing it on the Big 12 experience. It's the Big 12. And he's also killing it on the Ryan and Rush show. Give it up for Ryan McIntyre, aka Money Line Mac. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Let's talk some bracketology. Week 4 conference play finally starting. Finally.
Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
Yeah, I mean, so I was going to still have my East Carolina Pirates. You know, I was like, I could still build a case for them if App wins the Sun Belt. You know, then it's not a bad loss. You were up 16 that game. You miss an extra point. You miss a field goal. You easily could have won that game. So it's not that bad of a loss. Well, then tonight happened. South Alabama, who was 1-2, had lost to North Texas and Ohio. They came into Kid Brewer Stadium, where I believe they had never won ever before, and won 48-14. App scores a touchdown with like a minute left. Besides that, App's only other score was on a Hail Mary. Good God. It made me remove ECU from my bracket because that's not going to look like a quality loss, I don't think, moving forward. And I have no idea what's going to happen in the Sun Belt. And first off, I had a lot of money riding on App State. Even worse, dude, I also had money on over 62 and
48.
a missed extra point by South Alabama is the difference in that. I pushed, but I'm saying still, holy shit. Mac, I mean, what do you make of this outcome here? Did you have money on this game? And I know it hasn't affected your bracket, but still, this is a team that we thought was a contender in the playoff race.
I did. I threw a little bit on App State, man. I was fading the team that won by 77. I was like, get that shit out of here. They ran it up last week. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's definitely a wrench in what I thought App State was. App State, I'm trying to figure out. They got absolutely embarrassed by Clemson, who we thought couldn't play offense. And Clemson could have scored 150 that night.
Yeah, they waved the white flag. They waved the white flag. Yeah.
Shout out to Dabo and his YouTube TV. He waved the white flag, and they go to ECU. They get a win, a comeback win, and then they come out tonight and just get drilled. I don't know. I don't know what to make of App State.
Well, I know this one's concerning because it's in Boone. Like,
yes.
Okay, Sean Clark's had a blemish before. Like Sean Clark, to me, he's not Satterfield or Drinkowitz or Jerry Moore, the three previous coaches that really had it rolling, and they were like super sharp always. But Clark is known to you know, kind of fuck around like NC Nick, you know, who follows App really closely. He took South Alabama tonight because he just thought it was a letdown spot, but I think he still thought South Alabama was going to lose the game. But you know, his point was Sean Clark always has these games, but never at home normally. Like this is, oh man, and to be down by this many points, like this is a royal ass whooping on nationally televised game. I don't know, man. Like it makes me think that. That Coastal's the best team in the East and Texas State's the best team in the West. Maybe South Alabama though, because I can tell you this, man. Gio Lopez was impressive. You know, he had missed a game, that Ohio game, and my guy Fluff Bothwell. Let me tell you, he ain't gonna be at South Alabama that long if he keeps running like this, because he's a true freshman. He is a fucking dog. He's killing it here on the DFS slate. Which, by the way, the DFS episode will be dropping tomorrow. NC Nick had to fly. I also wouldn't have been available to do it either. But normally that comes in on Thursdays. That's everything's fucked up this week essentially. But yeah, I look, that made me move ECU out of my bracket, and you'll see what I did. But you know, any other things standing out to you? You know, the conference wise, you know, I guess there wasn't a lot of big time upsets, but I could tell you my national champ from the bracket a week ago, and I'm not gonna panic that much, but Georgia, yeah,
the Kentucky blunder. What is with it with Kentucky just fucking with Georgia every single year? I want to ask you this. I know we didn't talk about this part of the show. How many teams would you say are mathematically eliminated right now? Like if you go to, for example, the G5s, I think anybody in a G5 that has 2 losses is eliminated because there's only going to be one representation. In the high majors, I think the only one that's mathematically eliminated is Florida State because they have 2 league losses.
Yeah, yeah. And even that, like, I still think a third loss would, like, I do think 2 losses could get you in the ACC, but I still think the percentages of them running the table the way they look, very unlikely. But yeah, that's a good point. I would say, trying to think. I guess Mississippi State hasn't played any conference games yet, but they look like shit. But yeah,
all the teams that are 1 and 2 in the power conferences are still mathematically in it because they haven't had a conference loss. But Florida State's already sitting there with 2 conference losses, so that's remarkable that we're talking about 2 lost G5 teams in Florida State. Who had that on their bingo card?
Yeah. I mean, that is pretty wild. They were preseason top 10. The last preseason top 10 to start off, I saw this nugget today. Let me see if I can quickly pull this up. I believe the last preseason top 10 to start off 0-3 was Penn State in the COVID year. And then besides that, it was Texas A&M in 1988. Whew. Yeah, brutal.
I think there's like 25 teams that are probably mathematically out. I'm just doing the math right here. Between all the G5s and then you throw Florida State in there. It's just funny.
It is pretty hilarious. It is pretty hilarious. Like that, like just to assume that would be, yeah. Like, and I would probably throw anyone that lost to an FCS in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think in my head. UTEP still, they're still winless, but I'm trying to think that anyone else is anyone 1-1 or 2-1 that lost to an FCS, because maybe you would throw them in that mix too. Kent State, no, they're winless.
Yeah, I mean anybody with 2 losses in the G5 is cooked, in my opinion. I can't see, because there's going to be a 1-loss G5 team at the worst. Don't you agree?
I don't see. My thing is this: it matters what conference you're in. I think if you're in the AAC or the Mountain West and you have 2 losses, you're still alive.
Okay.
Because the way Liberty's playing this year, I don't expect them to go undefeated.
Agreed.
And if they have 1 loss, which is still certainly in the realm of possibility, I think a 2-loss Mountain West or AAC team would get that nod over Liberty with that strength of schedule. So, but in the Sun Belt, in the Conference USA, and the MAC, I think you might be cooked, like you said. Or
Kentucky's got 2 conference losses. I just looked. They're the only other team.
They're eliminated too then.
Yeah. So Kentucky and Florida State have been eliminated. And then a bunch of G5. So yeah, there you go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go, and before I reveal the brackets, we're gonna go conference by conference to talk about what like some surprises. But before I do that, I want to let you know you are listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And look, the war against corporate gambling is heating up, and SGPN needs you to do your part. If you could take a couple seconds to rate and review the College Football Experience, we'd appreciate that. Or subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/the College Experience. But more importantly, can you hop on over there and tell a friend of yours? All right. Word of mouth has been the heartbeat of this, the whole SGPN. It started in a fucking garage. I used to have to push a lawnmower out of my fucking seat. You know what I mean? So it has been word of mouth. All right. I went to get a sandwich made today. Guys talking sports. I hear him talking sports. I go, hey guys, check out the College Football Experience. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. All right. That's just what we do. So please, if you can, do that. All right. We are back, and yeah, I just want to do this exercise real quick. Like, I know we have our conference winners, and I know but I still think we should talk about the potential. Like, I know I think we both have 2 teams from the ACC in, right?
Yep.
In our brackets, but I gotta be honest. I think there's a lot more teams that could win the ACC. I mean, I kind of had it as an open conference coming into the season, but seeing I had that Syracuse Georgia Tech game as like a 50-50 game. Seeing Syracuse get that, I thought that was one of the more challenging games for the Qs. That makes me say, hey, Qs could do this. I know you're not going to want to bring up the Pitt Panthers, but I'm saying like they've been winning these 50-50 games like Cincinnati and West Virginia. So now they're 3-0. Now they haven't played any conference games, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But I'm just saying they are 3-0. Who are some of the surprises to you in the ACC? Like, I think you have Clemson, Miami as your ACC championship, right?
Yes, but I would say Miami is a little bit of a surprise to me. I anticipated that they would be at the top of it, but I thought that I was impressed by the way that they were dominant. Cal's been a nice little surprise. Cal going on the road, getting a big road win. Yeah, and then I'm sorry, my screen's refreshing. Also, Georgia Tech's been a nice surprise. I know
they're still a contender. Huge game this weekend, man.
And how could you not forget about Boston College and Bill O'Brien? I mean, they have 1 loss at Missouri, and they were right there. I mean, they were a couple bounces away, and I know Duke's undefeated. I don't know how good they really are. And same with Carolina. So, I mean, there's a bunch of 3-0 teams in the ACC. It's pretty wide open, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my thing. And we'll talk about some of the big games this week with implications. But I just wanted to touch on the ACC. And one thing I will say about Miami, because I'm with you, they passed the eye test.
Yeah.
But with Florida looking so shitty,
Yeah.
I don't know how much to like Ball State and Florida A&M. Florida A&M does not look like Florida A&M from the year before. That's an FCS team regardless, but I just don't know. I'm intrigued to see their game this weekend as they head to Raymond James to take on South Florida, and Alex going to go to the Go Lash. But I would say it's pretty up in the air. My championship game, and I know we're going to release the bracket, is Miami and Louisville. But
I forgot about Louisville. Louisville's right there too.
Yeah. But they have a big game. I mean, shit, they haven't played anybody either. So if I'm talking shit about Miami, I might as well talk shit about Louisville. I thought, we kind of thought Jacksonville State would be better, and then Murray State's a shitty FCS team like they normally are. So, anyway, ACC. What about your Big 12, man? You host the Big 12 experience.
Yeah.
What like I tend to think we're going to see the championship game probably this weekend.
Yeah, but it depends on Rising.
True, very true, dude. I bet that and got the worst of the fucking number too, dude. I have Utah -2.5 that I bet on Sunday, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Why? I should have thought about this.
Troy had an interesting angle today. He said Utah's going to be favored in every game except maybe this one. With Rising, they were like a 1 or 2 point favorite. What if they sit him out of this game, get him healthy, and then they run the table? And it's like, hey, our only game was when Rising was out. I mean, we saw what they did with Florida State last year. It matters who's playing, right? That's so. Troy actually played a little bit of a Benedict angle, and I was like, Troy, maybe there is something to that with Winningham. I still got K-State, Oklahoma State. I still go with my 2 all reliables, but I did make a joke here. Last year, Iowa State and Oklahoma State played in week 1 of the Big 12 schedule, and Iowa State was 1-2 going out of the non-con. Oklahoma State had just lost to South Alabama by 30. I joked that West Virginia and Kansas, the 2 biggest disappointments, ironically play week 1 of this Big 12 slate. So maybe the winner, the survivor of the freaking disappointment Depression Bowl goes on a run here. Who knows?
Yeah. And shout out to R Wright giving us $20 and shout out to Rom in the chat as well. Yeah, hope you see so Oklahoma State, K-State, that's his prediction as well as yours. I'll tell you this. I mean, I have Utah as the best team in the conference, but if Rising's out, they fall far down, like very far down to me. So it's not one of these things of like that just next man up and they'll be fine. They'll be a bowl team still, but I don't think they'll be in contention for the championship game if Cam Rising is not available. But what the fuck, man? He hit his hand on a water cooler.
Dude,
How?
I'm done trying to figure it out. I'm going to disanticipate. Hey, real quick on the Big 12 too. Did you see the lines this weekend? Every fucking line is 2.5 or 3.
Yeah. Even Vegas is like, where's the whiskey bottle? Where's the whiskey bottle? I got no idea what's happening here.
I mean, K-State's the class of the league. They're going to Provo. They're only laying 6.5. It's like this league is just going to be a total shit show. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, exactly. Folks, look, I want to talk more about a couple other teams before we reveal our bracket and then take a look into the games that we have, this weekend that would involve our bracket, busting. But before we do that, I want to let you know that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy's always adding to their awesome menu. They now have first TD projections. There are a ton of ways to win with the NFL, college football, CFL, MLB, MMA, and much, much more. Their lobby is jam-packed with profit boost and no sweat entries. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries as well. I just want to let me just see what I can throw out right now for this. What about Kyle Honda McCord? They're hosting, obviously Syracuse and Stanford playing at a conference game Friday night. I can't say that with a straight face. But Kyle Honda McCord, higher or lower 2.5 passing touchdowns, Mac. I think that's actually kind of a tricky one, but I'm kind of liking the Syracuse team and this energy behind Fran Brown. So what would you do with that? Would you go higher? Or would you go lower?
I kind of want to go lower because I think they might be a little conservative, and I think Stanford might. I think the trees might hang in there tomorrow night. Come on, Troy.
They could. Troy Taylor.
They're in the playoff hunt.
Who knows? Who fucking knows right now, man? So he's gonna go lower on that. That's just one example. There's a ton of stuff you can see, with players that you can find with college football. You can't find this elsewhere. I think that's one of the best things about Underdog Fantasy is like it's going to give you this opportunity to make cash if you know college football well or any of the sports I mentioned. It's really ahead of the curve in my opinion. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash, folks. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back, and so we talked Big 12 past the whiskey bottle.
So look at the spreads this weekend. You're gonna be like, gosh.
Yeah. well, I mean, and that's another thing is it's like I feel pretty good about like Utah being at least in the championship game if Cam Rising's healthy. But that's a huge fucking if, and it's been a huge if for years. So, you don't want to get ahead of yourself on that stuff. But taking a look at the Southeastern Conference, the SEC. Are you still like bullish that this is one where I think it's actually since the preseason, I kind of thought the differences in schedules would lead to not having the top two teams play each other. And that still could be the case, but I didn't have Texas in originally. And I think Texas will be in the Big 12 or the SEC championship. Where are you at with the SEC championship game? And do you have any, is there a couple teams that have looked better to you that could be, or a couple teams that look worse to you that you're like, man, I thought this team would look good? And
I mean, I want to say that Missouri's really good, and I want to say Ole Miss is really good, but do we really know yet? I haven't. I need
Tennessee
to see
too.
Yeah, and I was just about to say Tennessee. Like I like Nico. I think he's a hell of a player, hell of a talent. But I need to see him go on the road. And I know everybody's crowning Arch Manning all of a sudden. I need to see him go on the road. I think he could be the talent's there clearly. But Texas, man, when the bullseye's on their back, they have laid eggs in the past. And a young quarterback, I know Quinn Ewers will come back, but I don't know, man. I just need to see a little bit more from this league. Georgia and Alabama, they kind of looked a little shaky recently. Yeah, man, this league is intriguing just because you got so many teams ranked so high, and I'm trying to figure out why they're ranked so high, other than they're the SEC and they have the big brands.
That right there is your corruption. I think
corrupt.
Is like, hey, guess what? We want to have TV ratings, so we must put the brands up there. But I will say, I say this as someone, I said this on last Saturday night. You guys saw me bitching if you watched our show.
Yeah.
But they were disappointment to me all over. LSU. Yes, I took USC in the points in the opener, and I thought USC was being undervalued some in the preseason. But LSU, I really thought this was the year maybe that they would turn that corner. Saban's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be 1-2, and with that one win against Nichols, they didn't even look good. They should have lost last week. I will, and I had LSU money line. I got a future on LSU to make the playoffs. I'm on the over on the win totals. The team doesn't look very good to me, and I'm just not sold on them being. And the schedule breaks for them very well, where they could still make the playoffs at 9-3 or something. But I just don't think they're very good. That's to me the biggest disappointing team.
And I would throw A&M in that category too, where do we really don't know yet, just because they beat Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame turned around and lost to Northern Illinois. So I don't know.
They lost to Notre Dame though. They lost to Notre Dame.
That's what I mean. They lost to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. So it's like I mean, I was starting to buy into South Carolina, what I was seeing against LSU. I know they almost lost to ODU, but the way they went to Kentucky, then they came back and they controlled that game and then got completely jobbed. I still think Georgia's the class of the league. I still think they got to get out. They got to get out of their own way off the field. That shit's a distraction. Clearly, I mean, you can't just have somebody going 130 miles an hour every other hour. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. He just went 130 again. It's like, no, that's not normal.
Look, and I like to think that I'm fucking like pretty lenient.
Like, come on,
I'm pretty lenient on shit. Like, I think our society blows so much shit out of proportion. But I'm like, dude, Kirby Smart, how the fuck do you still have this problem happening? It's been going on for like 4 years. And it's like, dude, someone's died. Yeah. At the minute someone died, you should have been like, this is like a no tolerance policy. None of you motherfuckers are doing this or you're off the team. You're off the team if you're doing this. But it continues on. Yeah.
Like, these guys want to be paid like pros. Start finding them like pros, man. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're seeing that SEC corruption, but I guess that's what's hilarious. You talk to like the Georgia fan, and they're like, "No, it's the fucking Athens police." It's like they're going 130 miles an hour in a college town.
It's like Tyreek Hill getting pissed off. He got pulled over. Dumbass, you're going 100 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour. What did you expect?
Absolutely ridiculous. That's on Kirby Smart, man. Look, and I try to like I don't know, man. Like, I think I personally think like where the fuck is Greg Sankey at this? You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, normally I don't like too much of the commissioners or the media, like storm the field, storm the court. I'm pretty lenient, I think, on a lot of stuff, but after you've had multiple deaths, you're just like, what the fuck, man? You've had like 20 of these after this. I don't know. I think I almost think like the league should step down and be, or Sankey should step in and suspend him. But of course he won't, because it's his best interest for them to make the playoffs and win games. All corrupt. But anyway,
which one put you over the edge? Was it the 21st one or the 22nd incident? The 23rd? The 24th? Well,
and his answers are so cheap to me, dude. His answers are like, well, I'll address that internally. And it's like he's playing the next week. It's like, dude, fuck you, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you gotta get man. But like it is becoming a distraction on the field. Like the DB, I think it was a DB. I can't even remember what position he plays now, because there's so many of them that have gotten arrested. But it was a distraction in the middle of the week, in my opinion. And I think they just, for whatever reason, don't play well against Kentucky. But you gotta get that shit under control. Get arrested in May and June and July. Save for the off season.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
And you can drive fast. If I was Kirby Smart, I'd be like, you want to drive your fucking expensive cars? Yeah. You do that shit in the off season when you're back home in Houston or Miami, right? But as far as Georgia, the state of Georgia, if you drive fast, you're off the team forever. Yeah. All right. I don't understand it. Like, anyway, how about the Big Ten, man? Because I came into the year thinking this was the easiest conference to project. I didn't think it was that talented of a conference. Like the Big Ten, it amazes me how many people like put it up there on this pedestal, because I've always thought, like, if you're comparing them to the SEC or in certain years other conferences, I'm like, they're not. Like, yes, you have Ohio State and Michigan, but you have a lot of trash in your conference that wins games because they're playing other trash. Whereas I feel like comparing it to the SEC, as much as I like to make fun of the SEC's 8-game schedule, and and I actually got a negative comment saying I'm bagged on the SEC, but we bag on the SEC puts more of a target on their back because they constantly talk shit. They constantly root for their own teams in the conference, right? Whereas like the Big Ten doesn't do that. I've never heard a Purdue fan being like, "Oh yeah, let's go Minnesota." No, No. So there's more of a target there. So I think there's a human element to shitting on the SEC more than the Big Ten. But Oregon hasn't looked the greatest. I think we both still have them in the playoffs. They look good on Saturday in the Civil War, but where are you at with this conference? I'm starting to think Penn State might play more of a role than I thought.
Yeah, but they had the win in Morgantown, and then they kind of went through the motions against Bowling Green. We're going to find out a lot against Kent State this weekend, so that's a juggernaut of a game. What the heck? Why do we keep scheduling Kent State on these games? It's the worst team I've ever seen.
No. I'll blame Tennessee more than I'll blame Penn State, because at least Penn State's been playing Kent State for a long time. So like I understand putting that on the schedule, even though it sucks, right? Yeah. But Tennessee, this one is back to the SEC hate, is because they circle. The SEC will purposely go for the independents that suck. Yeah. New Mexico State, pre-CUSA, UConn, UMass, and Kent State and Akron play SEC teams. They never put the top, group of five. Like some of these times you'll see, just a very good group of five playing, like Virginia and Coastal going on this weekend. They normally don't do that shit where you're playing, Toledo, Mississippi State happened, and look what happened. You know what I mean? Like that is something. How many times can I say, you know what I mean? That is me being tired. Anyway, so I still feel like it's somewhat chalky. Michigan's not as good as I thought. Oregon's not as good as I thought. Penn State's got probably one of the better wins of the season for the Big Ten. Ohio State, we have no fucking idea. They're like Tennessee, where they're destroying everybody. Actually, Tennessee's strength of schedule is better than Ohio State's.
Yeah, they at least played NC State, who's a power five. They're
like Ole Miss. Ohio State and Ole Miss are like, you look at it and you're like, I mean, I guess Ole Miss played Wake. Ohio State is even worse than theirs. But I
get a kick out of Ohio State fans. Whenever you criticize their schedule, they just bitch nonstop. Like Michigan did the same thing last year. Harbaugh cheated. It's like, hey man, like, can we have a real conversation? Your schedule is ass. It's terrible. I'm not saying you guys aren't a top 5 team. I'm just saying I need to see you play somebody. I still think that they're going to be a top 3, top 4 team. Oregon, I think, is finally waking up. Indiana's getting a little too popular on the mainstream all of a sudden. I know they were your sleeper. Now all of a sudden I see graphics of they're going to be favored in every game. Really looking forward to this game tomorrow night in Lincoln, Illinois. Nebraska.
That game is great.
Yeah,
that game is great. Great Friday night game. Hopefully a lot better than tonight. I thought tonight's game was going to be great though. Or I thought like, App State will win, but it'll be a good game for 3 quarters. They'll pull away in the 4th. No, not the case. Folks, want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by BetUS. Yeah, bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. And you can bet anywhere with BetUS. BetUS is available in a ton of locations, including internationally. And BetUS just launched their all-new live betting experience. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency, and you get lightning-fast payouts. Mac just mentioned Nebraska, Illinois. I'm all over the Illini on Friday with the points, and I think they're live to win that thing on the money line. Mm-hmm. So hop on over there. Use BetUS. This is what's great about this. This is unbelievable here. Use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 payouts. Not 1, not 2, but 3 payouts. That's incredible. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner. Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, props. Rhythm AI had a great NFL Week 2, 22.5 ROI on NFL spread bets and a 44.3% ROI on NFL moneyline bets. So hop on over there, claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, we're back. Okay, we did this. Let's reveal these brackets and talk about the game. So this is what my bracket looked like. YouTube.com/the college experience as I fuck up everything here. But here we go. This is what it looked like a week ago. Not much change. I thought about, so this is what it was a week ago. And so I had East Carolina play at Texas. East Carolina lost to Appalachian State after being up 16-0. And then Appalachian State looks like shit on a Thursday night. So I'm going to cut them. Then I had Iowa, Tennessee, and I had that had changed from the previous week where I had Tennessee at Iowa to Iowa at Tennessee. And I also added Miami to the mix a week ago after, the Florida game and everything. So I had Miami, as the team to the second team to make it from the ACC. I had Louisville winning the ACC. And then I added Washington State, which we should talk about for a second because Washington State won the Apple Cup, which I thought was one of the bigger hurdles. Now they do have a game this week, short week, against an undefeated San Jose State team with Ken Niumatalolo. But when I look at the remaining Washington State schedule, they have, after this week, they head to Boise. And then they get a bye week, and then they're at Fresno. Those two games specifically, to me, if they go 1-1 in those,
yep.
And you take they're double-digit favorites against San Jose State, who's undefeated. They host Hawaii. There'll be double-digit favorites there. They're at San Diego State. I don't know that they'll be double-digit favorites, but they'll be favored to win that game. Utah State in Pullman, they'll be favored to win that game. At New Mexico Bronco Mendenhall, they'll be favored to win that game. At Oregon State, maybe late in the year if Oregon State improves some, but I still think that right now they'll be favored. And then Wyoming looks like complete ass, dude. They like we're talking about over the next 3 weeks here. I guess 4 with the bye week, but we might really know. But to me, the big hurdles were Texas Tech and Washington. If you can just go 1-1 at Boise and at Fresno and take care of business in games that you should be heavily favored in, they could be in this thing, man.
I'm worried about tomorrow night. I have a weird my how do you pronounce it? I never can pronounce his name. My guy from Navy, that guy Niumatalolo, Kenny. That's what I call him, Kenny, baby. He's a good coach, man, and he's already got that thing rocking and rolling 3-0 as well. I think that's a tricky spot. I'm just looking though. They got 5 road games, and one of them is in Corvallis, and the other one's in Boise. You're right. They do need to split that, especially, and they got a trip to Fresno. So this is a hard schedule. If they get out of this with 1 loss and they don't have to play a conference championship, they should be in.
Especially I think if you're lining them up against Notre Dame, it depends what Northern Illinois does. But I would say Notre Dame's best opponent coming into the season was Florida State.
Yep.
Florida State might go 3-9. You know what I mean? So I think Washington State's schedule, assuming Washington makes a bowl and Texas Tech makes a bowl, Boise, I think will definitely make a bowl. Fresno, I think will definitely make a bowl. And then Oregon State, I still think they're going to get to a bowl as well. So there'll be some meat on the bone where I think you could say Wazoo's going to get in. So I had Washington State taking on USC, old Pac-12 or old Pac-10.
Yeah.
Shit, old Pac-8 rivalry there. That one happening. So this is the way my bracket looks. YouTube.com/the college experience. So really not much of a shakeup. I thought about removing Georgia from my national champion after that performance against Kentucky. They've done that so many times against Kentucky and still won the national championship that I can't do it. So now I add Boise State to the mix, and wouldn't that? What's that? Say that again.
You basically have 2 Mountain West or 2 Pac-12s, Boise and Washington State.
Yes, well, Washington State doesn't get the vote as a group of 5. They have to get it they're like Notre Dame, where you have to get it outright. But if you go 11-1, I have a hard time imagining that they would just pass on Washington State. So my situation now, the way the bracket would align is Boise State at Texas week 1. Week 1, the first round of the playoffs, the play-in games. Iowa still at Tennessee. Miami still at Oregon. So nothing really changing here. Washington State at USC. If anything, nothing changed besides Boise State. And I don't have Boise State beating Texas, but I'll say this. That game would be interesting.
Oh yeah.
That game would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much change. Still have the same conference winners. I wish there was a little bit more carnage for content's sake for this episode, but you had a pretty.
I had a chalk week. None of my teams lost.
Now, did you also consider moving Georgia?
No, because I treated them just like Alabama after that South Florida game. I was like, you know what? They're not going to just drill everybody by 40 every week. I think it was a good wake up for them headed into the bye. They do play on the other side too, so that was kind of my thing. Hey, we got Alabama in a couple of weeks. Kentucky's always gave them fits. The team I honestly almost thought about moving was Utah until Troy had walked me through the scenario about maybe they're sitting Rising out, so they can run the table and go that path. Because I'm starting to get worried about Utah just because of Rising. If Rising isn't there, they're not going to make the playoff. But watch, Northern Illinois will lose to Buffalo, and I'll have to switch that out. Peak action this weekend where NIU would lose to fucking Buffalo.
I already bet Buffalo plus 14, and I'm telling
that's
you,
easy. This is Mac. You don't like two touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. And only Kent State is the only one that gets a pass sometimes for 2 touchdowns. I'm with you, brother. And look, so I mean, Mac has the same exact. He didn't make any changes, so. Here's what we're going to do now. So we can't speculate, part of the show is we like to envision matchups with our bracket. Well, the only one that changed to me is Boise State, Texas. We talked about that one, but what we can say is what games have major playoff implications going into this week 4 here. And I think I don't know to me, the biggest one on Friday is the Washington State one, but I guess you could build a case with Illinois or Nebraska. If they got to 9-3, could they find themselves in the playoffs? They are in one of the Power 2 conferences where a 9-3 team might get you in. I also think there'll be a 9-3 team that won't get in probably. But do you value Illinois and Nebraska as playoff contenders? They're in the top 25, so I feel like they should be valued right now. Is that? But am I ahead of myself here a little bit?
More Nebraska just because of Raiola. They want Nebraska back in the national spotlight. Like they're overforcing that they want Nebraska back relevant. They've been talking about potentially going 8-0 to Columbus for since the preseason or 7-0, whatever it is. And if they were to get to only lose 2 games and it was at Ohio State or at USC, I think they would be in a good position. But they got a lot of games to play between now and then, including tomorrow night. I probably would say Nebraska. And then I mentioned it, man. I'm worried about Wazoo tomorrow in that ultimate sandwich spot coming off the Big Apple Cup. Got Boise on deck, Fresno on deck, and they had Texas Tech the week before. This is the ultimate sandwich look-ahead spot, so hopefully Wazoo can survive it.
This is what's great about the 12-team playoff. And I'm going to add that Syracuse. I understand that Syracuse.
The ACC's wide open.
And their schedule breaks incredibly. By them getting past Georgia Tech, which I had as I think they should be favored against Stanford, which they play this week. Next week they get FCS Holy Cross. So if they just stay and don't get upset, they should be 4-0. I'm sorry, what 4-0 or 5-0? 4-0 because they had a bye week. Then they have a super interesting game at UNLV, who's beaten 2 Power 5s already, and UNLV is a team in the mix to make the playoff. At NC State, which I had as an auto loss when I did the Syracuse preview, looks way winnable, way more winnable than it did, in mid-August. They do play at Pitt, which I guess looks a little harder, but Pitt has definitely been living on the edge. They've been down in 2 of their 3. Yeah. But you look at that, they don't have, to me, what's their toughest road games? Their only road games left. Now UNLV might be their hardest road game. But that's an empty ass fucking arena. No, none of these Rebel fans go there. It's stupid that they're playing there. So they're at UNLV, at NC State, at Pitt, at BC. I guess there's enough meat on the bone here but I still think they're in the mix to play for the ACC championship right now, which would make all 3 games on Friday night relevant for talking about this 12-team playoff, which I think makes the sport so much fucking better.
and I will go with the chat. I think that they make a really good point, and maybe I should have thrown Northern Illinois, but I really wanted to reward them for their win in South Bend. UNLV has 2 Big 12 road wins at Kansas at UNLV. Imagine if both teams are 4-0, Syracuse and UNLV Friday night, October 4th in Vegas.
Whew, that's what I'm saying.
That's playoff implications.
You're right. You're 100% right, man. Other playoff games going on Saturday, or playoff implications involved, even in week 4, that really hold a lot of weight to me. The big one, Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think, not that I really value Oklahoma as a contender this year, but 9, yes, and 9-3, like Venables could still like Oklahoma's like the winningest like them, and like, is there more of a blue blood than Oklahoma? Maybe you could say Bama, maybe you could say but historically, I would never be surprised if Oklahoma ended up 9-3 or 10-2 and in the playoffs. It's just it's Oklahoma, so you still have to value that, even though they haven't looked great. And Tennessee on the other side is certainly a contender. I have them in my playoff. So that game, this is Nico's first road start, as you just alluded to. I think that is one of the bigger games as far as playoff implications on the whole entire slate. Who do you lean on that game, by the way?
Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma. I like to fade the emotion, and I know Heupel's playing it down, but he's going back there. He wants to stick it to Venables. I think they're pressing a little bit in this game, and it's Nico's first true road start. I like the Sooners, man, and everybody's crowning Texas, but the premier program over the last 15 years in the Big 12 is not Texas at all. They have one championship. It was Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been a standard of success, 9-10 wins, like you said. They're going to be juiced up to have Heupel back there. I think Oklahoma actually might win this football game on Saturday. I think
I'm on the Sooners too.
I think it's going to be a hell of a game. So I like the defense with Venables.
I just think with Venables, he told a great story with Mike Leach recruiting Josh Heupel. Him and Venables and Leach were on the same staff at Oklahoma. Obviously, Heupel won a national championship as a quarterback there, but then also they were on the same coaching staff for a long time. So I think that I think that favors the defense more than the offense. So something to pay attention to there. I'm on the Sooners too. I'm eager to see this one. I gotta mention though, there's just a slew of games that this is why the 12 team playoff is so interesting to me, is following these storylines and following like all of a sudden games that you maybe didn't want to tune into before or wouldn't pay attention to, like a Buffalo Northern Illinois. I can tell you, we have a 9 TV setup here at the studio here at SGPN, and I try to throw on as many games as I can, but there's so many that some do miss the cut, right? And I try to watch them throughout the week, but I don't know that Buffalo and Northern Illinois would have caught our TV, especially on a Saturday. Obviously, if it's a weekday action, it's on the TV. I don't think it would have caught it a year ago. I think we probably would have had a different game on. Now, this one is at the forefront. This is going to be put on, like, to me, it's like, no, this needs to be on. This has major implications right now. So that game becomes way, way more interesting than before. Another one, while we're talking about like group of 5 spots, I know if we had to rank our group of 5 teams, we'd probably have different order, but probably the same teams at the top. Boise, UNLV, Liberty would probably still, just because they're undefeated, even though they don't look the part yet. And then, we'd probably have Tulane or Memphis beating Florida State.
Yeah, that helps.
You got South Florida with the way they played Bama, with them having a big game coming up. But Coastal Carolina is one to me that, and I want to talk about South Florida in a second, but Coastal Carolina hosts Virginia, and I think Virginia actually could make a bowl this year. So if you are a Coastal fan, you're 3-0 and you look pretty damn good. I mean, last week kind of struggled with Temple, but it's that's like a sneaky home field environment because no one goes there, so you just don't get excited. And they got the win there, but the other 2 games they were super impressive. And if they can take care of a win against Virginia here, I think that game holds a little bit of water as far as the Group of 5 bid. Who are you taking in that game? Virginia at Coastal, by the way.
I think I like Virginia. I actually think that Virginia is better. I'm with Patty. I actually think that they're a little bit better than everybody thought coming into the year. I thought they kind of gave away that Maryland game. But yeah, I mean, Coastal, this is a big game for them because after that they got ODU, JMU, Louisiana. So I mean, we just saw Boone go way down tonight. But if you get this one, you're 4-0. You got a big win at Jack State to start the year. Then you won at Temple. Now you beat Virginia, an ACC school. You're right in the mix headed into the Fun Belt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is and Patty C. You're bringing up. Patty C's made a case that Army he thinks can get to the playoffs.
Yes.
They play Rice this Saturday, and that would put them at 3-0, and they're 7-point favorites. So that game even has a little bit of implications. But his JMU Dukes are taking on North Carolina at Keenan Memorial, another opportunity. Who do you think is more likely to grab a win against the ACC? Coastal at home against UVA, or JMU at Keenan Memorial against North Carolina without their starting quarterback?
As much as I would love to take JMU, I probably would say Coastal. I think Carolina is better even without their quarterback. So I think James Madison. I don't think that they're on the same level with Signetti leaving. I do like Chesney, but I think it's a tall task to go into Chapel Hill. But I do think that they'll keep it close though.
Yeah. So the early morning games, like, and I know I'm all over the place here. NC State, Clemson. NC State's won 2 straight against Clemson. They look like shit though, and they're heading into Clemson, South Carolina. Their starting quarterback, Grayson McCall, obviously famous for his stint at Coastal. They're going to get waxed, right? Like, should I waste my breath on this being a playoff game right now? Like this has playoff implications just because you have Clemson in your 12-team bracket right there.
Yeah. But is this not the game where Clemson kind of just goes through the motions a little bit and they win by like 17? Dabo's over there watching YouTube TV on the bye week. I fucking love Dabo. Dabo's over there cooking up a 12-team parlay during his bye week, sweating out all these games. Had it on his phone, had it on my iPad. Had to log in the provider is what he said. I was like, what are you talking about?
It's fucking hilarious. I was like, wait, your provider is YouTube TV, buddy.
He's the best. I love Dabo.
That's like talking to my dad.
Yeah.
Like on like my dad's trying to figure out the FaceTime on his iPhone. how the hell do I do this thing, Colby? Anyway, Tulane, Louisiana, another one. I don't think Tulane. You think Tulane because they lost to both Kansas State and Oklahoma? You mentioned this, 2 losses. This is why I would not eliminate them yet, because in the AAC and with that strength of schedule, I think they're still alive, but they can't fuck up here. This is a back-to-back away.
Brutal spot
against a rival. So watch out for that game, as that game still has implications as well. Obviously you got the Big 12 matchups. I'd say Utah, Oklahoma State is must watch. Obviously all the games are pretty fire because we have no idea who's winning these. The lines reflect that. But as far as our brackets, you have Oklahoma State in, I have Utah in, you also have Utah in. That is the game to watch, I think, in the Big 12 this week.
And real quick, how is that not Big Noon Kickoff? How is it Marshall, Ohio State? But anyway,
fucking trash.
No kidding.
Fucking trash.
Trash is an understatement. But yeah, this is But it goes back to our point, man. Where do we rank Utah if we don't know where Rising is? So I guess we'll see if we get any clarity on how long he may be out. But yeah, I think Oklahoma State was going to win regardless, just because I know Gundy's had this circled. They've been conservative with Ollie Gordon. I think they let him loose this week. I like the Cowboys this weekend.
I mean, I like Utah if Rising plays, but if not, I don't think they win. Yeah, I don't think they win, but still a fascinating game if you're following the 12-team playoff and why this playoff is so good for the sport, healthy for the sport. Another one I must mention right now is Miami, Ohio, who won the MAC a year ago, heads into South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Notre Dame statement game against Purdue. They're still alive for the playoff, even though their schedule's looking absolutely fucking horrible with the way Purdue looks and the way that Florida State continues to lose for them. you're looking at the, if you're Notre Dame, you need USC to beat Michigan this week, and maybe they will, but there's not a lot. You're looking at this, you're like, well, A&M doesn't look like they're a real contender in the SEC. Purdue looks like ass. I guess you have Louisville that could be, but you're looking at the rest of the teams, and you're like, man, I don't know. USC and Louisville, they need to have really good years to help that strength of schedule. They are Notre Dame. They get the benefit of the doubt, but this game matters because even if Miami, Ohio keeps it close, I think it strengthens the MAC's perception, and the MAC has already scored some major wins with Toledo going to whoop Mississippi State's ass, and Northern Illinois obviously taking care of Notre Dame. So, and Bowling Green's performance at Penn State, I think it helps the perception, and I think the voters, if Northern Illinois ends up your MAC champion at 11-1, I think they might say, hey, they have the best win, they have the absolute best win, and at the same time, the conference has performed well on a national level. What do you think is going to happen in this? I mean, you think Notre Dame is going to destroy them?
I mean, Miami of Ohio's coming off the Cincinnati game. That's the problem. They've played 2 high majors already, so they have not had like a cupcake to kind of get their legs back under them. I probably lean that Notre Dame, but I'm not laying 27.5. No, I'm going to take the points. Actually, I was going to say they're not going to mess around with another MAC team, but they're also just not that explosive, and they scored like 60 points somehow against Purdue last week, which I'm still trying to figure out how. I mean, good job, Purdue. How's that even possible? They scored 14 against Northern Illinois. That's some damn pride. Hey, real quick, if Northern Illinois goes 11-1 and Notre Dame goes 11-1, who gets in?
Well, dude, I'm gonna go fucking crazy because I'm gonna go fucking crazy if they do that to them. Like, I already see the top 25 polls, which just insult my intelligence, and you're just sitting there like, wait, that wasn't a gimmick, too. Like, I would argue it no matter what, even if it was a Hail Mary that Northern Illinois won on. But Northern Illinois, if you watch that game, was the better team. There was no. Now, if they play again, who knows? But I'm saying for that game, the data point should say Northern Illinois should be in over Notre Dame. There was no gimmick. There was no key injuries for Notre Dame. They had key injuries in the preseason. But if you're going to honor that A&M win, you should honor that in the same regard that you're honoring the loss for Northern Illinois, because it's the same goddamn team. USC Michigan, you got to think if Michigan loses here,
they're out. Yeah,
pretty much, because you still have so many. You still have Oregon and Ohio State. Now, theoretically, if Michigan won out, if they went 9-3, they'd probably put them in because they're the reigning champs. But you got to think, if you're sitting here as you're Michigan, you lose your second game, and we're still in September, that you're pretty much looking like you're not going to be in the playoffs. What do you think happens in this one? And do you share the same sentiment that this is still a huge playoff game potential? Like for the 12th team, I think this is a gigantic game.
Huge game. And I was going to, in the preseason, I had Michigan in my bracket because I had them winning this game, and I almost put USC in. But I think Michigan's going to shock the world. I see everybody in the chat saying USC is going to win by 30. I think you get Orgy in there now, and I think you change up the offense, you control the line of scrimmage, you ground and pound, and I think you play solid defense. Miller Moss first Big Ten road game for Lincoln Riley and company. I think Michigan, wounded animal, is going to pop up here and knock off USC.
I like this. I disagree, because I think that if this was in like a month from now, where like USC would, the wind could play a role, the cold, or the pass would not be able to, like, it's still September. It's not going to be that, unless you got like rain 50. Or something. Yeah. I think they'll be fine there. And then to me, I think they're going to load the box and make Orgy beat you. And I think USC's physicality on defense has been shown in their first 2 weeks that they are way better than they were previously. And I don't know that Orgy can do that. I don't know that Orgy can pass the ball. Now, if first quarter, if he can open it up with a couple passes, maybe then you could say, okay, but I don't know. I'm kind of out on Michigan, and I had them in my bracket in the first episode there.
I'm also reluctant to buy in because I'm not high on LSU, and that's USC's.
That's true. That is true. That's fair. That's fair.
I need to see them do it on the road at Michigan. Michigan proud program. Pop-up spot. Let's go, Noah Beanick. I see you in the chat. Go blue.
Memphis at Navy. The chat was talking about this one. YouTube.com/the college experience. This is a dangerous ass game. Memphis just got paid $1.6 million to come into Tallahassee, get that dub. They're dancing around, taking Instagram shit. You know what I mean? Like doing all this crazy stuff. And then you go and play single wing T Navy, Blake Horvath at the quarterback spot. Look, this was on a 4-point game last year at the Liberty Bowl. Watch out. Now, my only thing that, once again, in the same vein as USC Michigan, you wish this game was a little later on the schedule. I think if you're a Navy fan, where these boys from Memphis go up to a really cold place, not going to be the case. But I do think this game is interesting when you're watching. This is now much more watchable, or much. You want to see this game more because you know Memphis with that Florida State win, regardless of their record, saying, "Hey, it's Florida State. You won at Florida State, and you never trailed that game." I think that shit could matter in late November. So, any chance the midshipmen take care of? Oh yeah, this is a horrible spot for them, right?
We need to start tracking this trend. A team that's coming off a Power 5 all in game like Florida State. I know Florida State sucked, but it still was an all in game for Memphis. Then you got to play a service academy. Remember when FAU went up to Sparty? They went toe to toe. Then they went down and played Army, and Army just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah,
dude, that's the worst thing is playing one of these service academies right off a Power 5 all in Super Bowl game. Yeah, give me Navy outright. Let's go. Midshipmen.
Yeah, I
Army
agree.
Navy for the playoff.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that's a dangerous game. I can't wait to watch it. Arkansas, Auburn. I know we didn't say they're eliminated yet, but I kind of think they are. But it's still a fun game because they hate each other. So I will watch that game every time. But Arkansas, Auburn, not going to highlight it too much on this. UCLA, LSU. I think LSU is going to roll them. That doesn't mean LSU is good. UCLA, I do believe, is that bad.
No wings on next week for everybody.
Georgia Tech, Louisville has suddenly, like, if I had to rank the games, I didn't think I'd be talking about this game with the excitement that I am. I do think this is a very good game for this Saturday slate. I think it's one of the low key, more important games because I think if Georgia Tech can steal the win here, now I know their schedule is brutal, but if Louisville gets past this was one that I had Louisville winning. I have them winning the ACC, but I thought this was a sneaky spot for them. I thought this was a sneaky spot to lose to a Georgia Tech team that seems improved. You look at the remaining schedule for Louisville, and especially I always like to look at the road schedule, and I mean in conference. I know they play at Notre Dame and at Kentucky. Those games are irrelevant to me because the auto bid's on the line. At Clemson on November 2nd is the only game that I really worry about. I will say this actually: Boston College Bill O'Brien's impressed me so much that game has become a little more scary than I thought it was.
Yeah,
but this is to me like when I pinpointed beginning of the year Louisville being a legit contender to win the ACC. I just said they got to get past that Georgia Tech game. It's a sneaky game because it's right before the Notre Dame game, right? I just thought it was a sneaky game. The Tech's catching 10.5. What do you make of this game?
I'm gonna take the points. It was a close game last year. I'm trying to remember. Louisville fans, help me out. Did you guys lay an egg at Pitt on the backside of the Notre Dame big win, or was it on the front side? I think it was on the backside.
I think it was on the backside. It was on the back, and that's the one thing also to highlight too is Jeff Brom is, I think, a really good coach, but they're kind of a finesse team and they like to pass. Why they lost that game, in my opinion, was it was a torrential downpour.
Yeah, and it was Narduzzi weather.
It made them feel uncomfortable. And that's something to highlight when you're looking at their schedule, down the road at Virginia or at Boston College, like if it's cold, if there's elements, I know Louisville can get cold, but I'm saying if it's got some rain, anything there, I feel like Brom's offense will struggle a little bit more than you think. Yeah, I think that game is big. I know we got to head out here soon. Curious though, Arizona State, Texas Tech has become a little bit more appealing because Arizona State looks like the greatest fucking team ever. Who'd you end up taking in this one?
Hey, what's the line?
I'm seeing 3.
Exactly.
Texas Tech -3. Yeah.
Again, just like Cincinnati, Houston, just like Baylor, Colorado, just like Oklahoma State, Utah, just like West Virginia, Kansas. Every Big 12 line is 3 this week. It's fascinating. I ended up taking Texas Tech. I think it's a tough back-to-back road spot for Arizona
too.
State. But I've
Me
been
too.
impressed, and I'm happy to have Arizona State a part of the 12.
Yeah, I mean they have certainly looked good. Rutgers, Virginia Tech, another one that I think could. I don't know. I kind of think both are pretenders. They're not really serious playoff, but I have to mention just because Rutgers' schedule is so favorable. This is one of the spots where I think you forecast them as saying, okay, this is one that they should lose. You look at their schedule and they don't play Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State or Oregon. So you're just sitting there saying, hey, they could win some of these 50-50 games, especially if they get past the ones we know they'll be dogs. This was one of them. What are you doing in this game?
I got hot potatoed this game on the radio earlier, and I agreed with your angle the other night. I think Virginia Tech remembers getting their ass kicked last year. They got 19, 20 starters back. I think Rutgers is not the same team away from New Jersey. I actually like the home guys in Blacksburg this weekend. Me too.
ECU Liberty. This game I still will talk about because even though App State as your loss, ECU has to me the one of the more favorable schedules in the AAC, and especially with the way UTSA is looking, I could still very much see a path for ECU playing for the AAC championship. Shout out to my guy Alex Crouch in the chat that was talking about his future. It's not cooked yet, man. I still think ECU could win the AAC. I think there's a decent shot that they actually play for the AAC championship with that schedule. Now they need a win like this though. They needed to. I said this before. They had to go 1-1 against App and Liberty, right? 1-1, and then take care of business within the conference, and then hopefully you'd be hosting the championship game in Greenville for the AAC championship. They should have. I thought they were in a position to win last week. They shit the bed. Can they go into Lynchburg and get that dub? What are you doing here in this one?
I think so. I think Liberty's overrated this year, man. Everybody penciled them in as their 12-0 team. I do like ECU here. I think that I'm not just saying that because you're an ECU fan. I think they're going to win the game outright. I think this is a bounce back, and Liberty got App State on deck. I know they just got killed, but that's a big brand game for Liberty.
Dude, if you look, and look, if ECU can steal this win, folks, and I know I'm an ECU fan, but I'm saying I just want to build this for you. Next week, they're home to UTSA, but UTSA does not look very good. Yeah, that was one of the more challenging games on the schedule. Yeah. So then you look and you're like, I see an October 19th game at Army, which seems very dangerous, very tricky. But one thing I do like about Mike Houston, he was a coach at the Citadel for a long time. They beat South Carolina actually when he was coach at the Citadel. They ran the triple. So I like having coaching. You saw it last week with Nia Montalolo against Air Force, or was that 2 weeks ago? Having that familiarity with what they're going to be doing, I think is a good thing. Now, you look at the remaining schedule, dude, this is the easiest fucking schedule in the AAC. So like they really could, the games I worry about are really Army and Navy. You know what I mean? Like I think every other game I'm like, they should be favored, but I'm like Army, Navy, that makes this game fucking gigantic for ECU. I can't wait to watch that game this Saturday. This is why the 12-team playoff is great. There's also Toledo against Western Kentucky, which I think might have a little bit of Toledo needs to win that game, not shit the bed. Huge letdown spot. Iowa, Minnesota. I want to get your take on this because I have Iowa in my playoff. Iowa -3 rowing the boat.
Yeah, remember last year they lost on that bullshit call.
It's a punt return for
one circled.
Yeah. I have one more I want to talk about. Then we're leaving. I think BYU beats Kansas State this weekend.
You know, I took a shitload of dogs. We're on opposite sides. I think K-State blows it open late because BYU's offense has struggled so far. But I love their defense.
They have Oklahoma State on deck. I think it's a look ahead spot. They haven't been in Provo in like 20 fucking I think like 35, 40 years. I think it's a sneaky. A lot of people don't realize that like how good their fans are and how lit that place can be. Watch out, Alex. I know you're a K-State guy, but I'm telling you, watch out for this one. I was all over the BYU over. Sataki's a good football coach. He gets a bad rap. I'm glad to see they're 3-0, regardless of this outcome. But I think they're live. This is what I mean, though. The playoffs are fantastic. I'm sure next week, by the way, this is out of all the weeks we've done this was the most boring as far as our bracket thus far. Yeah. I'm sure next week it'll heat up a little bit because we have some big time matchups, folks. But make sure you give Moneyline Mac a follow on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac. Check out all of his work: the college football experience, the college basketball experience, the Big 12 experience, the Ryan and Rush show. Don't forget about that one. All right. And check out all of those. Also, check out the college football experience. I can't wait for the college basketball show, man. I was just earlier today sitting down, just looking at the schedule. I saw that opening. Yeah. Oh yeah. What's that? Baylor and Gonzaga opening night. Let's fucking go.
We're doing our trim right after this on our top games. So
go.
Tune right in, everybody.
Go get some trim, people. Look, I'm on Twitter, the Colby D. The college football experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. YouTube.com/the college experience. Hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Appreciate you all tuning in and appreciate donating us some greenbacks. Till next time, this is the college football experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.